Let's say the priest scholars, because they had colleges in ancient Kemet and they did research in development, and their term for the priest or the college professor was the Keriheb, and it's spelled K-H-E-R-I-H-E-B. And they had three types of college professors, or three types of priests. They had those that dealt with law, those that dealt with medicine, and the Keriheb priests that were heavily into research and development. Okay. Now, what types of things impact or influence the biological clock? Let's take a look at the things that impinge on the biological clock. When we look at those types of things, we know that light greatly influences the functioning of the pineal gland. Also, temperature. Also, the type of food that we eat. And our thoughts. And more specifically, correct thoughts and behavior. All of these elements or factors have an impact on the pineal eye, and we can kind of highlight the knowledge from the ancient Kemetic educational system, which the Greeks called the mystery systems. And it's difficult to say why they named it this. Maybe they meant it was something that had to be revealed, or something that was a puzzle. And I'm sure that much of the heavy knowledge that our people taught the Greeks was a puzzle to them. But they termed our educational system the mystery system. But of course, it was not a mystery to us. It was simply the way that we educated young men and women in that system. And let's take a look at the ancient Kemetic mystery system. And I use that word Kemet or Kemetic because that was the original term for Egypt. Actually, the Greeks gave it this name, Egypt or Egyptos. But our people called that area of Africa that was in the northeastern corner of Africa, our people called this area Kemet, which meant black, or the black land. And that's because every year the Nile River, which flooded that particular area of Africa, and it winds down through Central Africa, starting in places like Ethiopia and Uganda. It started in the north. The Nile River began or originated in the north, and then it flowed upward. So we called our country Kemet, which meant the black land. So in reference to the mystery system, the ancient Egyptian mystery system or educational system, let's take a look at what types of curriculum or what types of subjects were taught in this system. Now, I won't list all of the subjects taught. However, I will list the most basic and fundamental topics. The first thing that students had to know in the curriculum was the curriculum of the 7 liberal arts. And this is where our liberal arts come from. When you go to college, you have to take a science track or a liberal arts track. But at that particular time, the 7 liberal arts consisted of first grammar. You had to know how to write. And secondly, arithmetic. You had to know how to compute. Then, of course, the young children were taught rhetoric. And they didn't just choose any child. They chose the children that they thought would be able to survive and go on to finish that particular system or educational system or mystery system, as again is what the Greeks called it. But then they had to be taught the mathematics of space. They had to be taught geometry. Next, they were taught music and its healing properties. Music is intimately related to mathematics. Also, astronomy. More and more today, we're calling the study of astronomy physics. Okay? Astronomy, and last, mortuary science. How to funeralize the deceased. And it was an entire science at that time, because the people that deal with the deceased today are still studying the techniques of the ancient African people. They're still studying how in the world did they embalm people so that their bodies would last for thousands of years, such that when they would unwrap those mummies, you could still see their skin and their hair. And one of the secret elements, so I won't say secret, but one of the elements that they used to preserve the dead was natron. Okay. Okay, so you have the seven liberal arts, which were the foundation of the educational system. Now, again, we're connecting these things with what helps the pineal gland function, what keeps it on track. Okay? Now, again, another part of the knowledge from the ancient Kemetic educational system, the knowledge that kept the pineal gland functioning, was a life of virtue, having a virtuous life. And let's take a look at some of the virtues that the student was taught. You had to live a life of virtue. What do we mean by that? There were 10 virtues. Okay. And I'll list the most important. First, the student was taught to control his thoughts, his or her thoughts. First, control of thought. Secondly, from your thoughts come actions. So we say control of actions. Okay? The next thing that was a virtue was when you were being persecuted, or as the young people say, if you're dissed today, you had to have freedom from resentment. You couldn't hold a grudge. So the next thing was freedom from resentment when under persecution. And I'll abbreviate this because I'm running out of space. The next virtue you had to develop was courage. And of course, courage means doing things even though you're afraid, but doing the right thing even when you have that fear. The next virtue was persistence in your goal. When things didn't go your way and you had a goal, you had a mission, that if you were persistent, you would be a stronger person and you would actually achieve that goal. So persistence was very, very important. And last but not least, and I know I'm missing some, but again, I'm trying to write the most important, you had to have confidence in yourself, faith. And even the Bible says if you have the faith of a mustard seed, you can achieve your goal. So these are just some of the 10 virtues that developed the third eye, or the inner eye. And next, let's take a look at the principles that an individual had to live by. You had to also live a principle-filled life. And all of this, again, is a part of knowledge that helped that inner eye to develop. Okay? And we're still on the curriculum of the Egyptian educational system. A principled life. And when we look at the principles that our youth had to follow, had to live by, first, they had to live by truth. They had to be honest. That was the most fundamental principle that you could live by, truth. Next, you had to be fair. And of course, we call that justice. The other principle that you had to strive for was order. Okay? Next is balance. And then accuracy. You had to be correct.